Do you have persistent aches and pains in your body or areas that just feel constantly tight no matter how much you stretch? Chances are your fascia could use a little bit of extra love. So I'm going to show you today how you can use some tools to take care of your fascia and start getting relief throughout your body. You're going to be amazed. It just feels so good. So what's our fascia? What are we trying to accomplish? I want to show you a quick visual aid so that you kind of understand what we're trying to do. So your fascia is this collagenous material that is organized in many different planes in your body, but essentially it encases all of your soft tissues. It's connected throughout your body. So for example, you've got fascia that goes from the bottom of your feet all the way up your back, all the way to the top of your head, and many other fascial lines throughout the body. When things are out of whack, like if your fascia is really tight or thick or dense in certain spots, and I'll talk about why that gets like that in a minute, the rest of your body just can't move as well. So think of it like my leggings that I'm wearing. If my leggings are like stuck and glued down on one area of my skin, the rest of my tissue around that spot just can't move as well. It's kind of restricted. So I've got this plastic bag. It's sort of folded up on itself. So this is a plastic bag, multiple layers, and if this plastic bag was all glued together and really thick and dense, you wouldn't be able to move it. There would be no flexibility in it. But you want to be able to slide those pieces apart, and that's how our fascia is. We want it to slide and glide so that all of our tissues beneath it can move freely and not feel sticky and achy and painful. So we want to make our fascia and our tissue glide like this plastic bag, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Of course, there are a lot of ways to get started. I know it's natural to try to go to the area of pain if you have pain, let's say in a hip or your shoulders, and you just want to tackle that area right away. But I'm just going to encourage you to think of your body as an entire unified system. Everything is connected. So when we're talking about fascia, we want to create nice balance throughout the system where there's no like really tight, tense spots. We just want to create nice flow throughout. So a couple things that you might want to have on hand. I've got a foam roller here. I've got this little peanut roller, and I also have a squishy ball. These are my favorite tools for working on fascia. There are endless possibilities, but let's start with our feet. I really like this peanut roller, but you can do a lot of these things with a regular foam roller, depending on how I'm feeling in my feet. Sometimes I also like using one of those like spiky, hard plastic balls to really get into the fascia there. So I'm just gonna start with my heel on the ground. My toes are on this little ball. I'm actually gonna kind of flare my toes up to stretch out the fascia on the bottom of my foot. And then I'm gonna glide forward and back. And you can kind of let your body guide you. I always say that once you get going with stretching, foam rolling, any sort of soft tissue work, let your body guide you. This peanut is a little bit softer. It's a little bit more foamy, so I have the ability to kind of really like dig into it. If you're using one that's firmer, like a double lacrosse ball, you might not have to push quite as hard. But I'm just kind of alternating between curling my toes down and flaring my toes up and kind of rocking to the outer edge and the medial edge of my foot, getting into my arches. So I'm going to do the other side. And again, if you're following along and you don't have one of these peanuts, you can replicate this with your foam roller. That's totally fine. Depending on kind of where you end up discovering you've got some sticky spots in your body, you might prefer one tool or another. So again, like if your plantar fascia, your bottoms of your feet tend to be really challenging and painful, I definitely encourage one of those spiky little balls. So I'll just kind of get into my arches here and wrap up the feet so that we can get on to some of the other areas. This is going to be a pretty comprehensive total body fascia sequence, but of course, depending on what you've got going on and how much time you have, you might decide to pick and choose the bits that serve you the most. So now I'm actually going to see with the peanut. Again, you can use the foam roller for this, but we're just going to kind of glide up and down our calf. And I kind of like to go a little side to side. So remembering that visual of the plastic bag and how you kind of want to create that gliding sensation, Think about that too with your body. You want to kind of use these tools. You'll notice a lot of foam rollers and even this ball, it's got like a little bit of a sticky texture to it, and that kind of helps with gripping and getting into those tissues. So let your body guide you, but I'm kind of going side to side over this. And you can do some ankle circles. So for my other leg, I'll show you what that would look like with the foam roller. Same idea, but if you're using a foam roller, I would just kind of go side to side, kind of rocking and letting my calf kind of release over that foam roller and making some circles. You can kind of try like pigeon toeing your toe and then opening up. It's like kneading out your muscles, right? So you've probably used a foam roller before. It's a really similar approach when you're thinking of it from a fascia perspective. But again, you just kind of want to focus on getting a little bit more of that gliding action in there. So I'm going to switch over to the squishy ball. This is one of my favorite tools for working on fascia, especially if you are experiencing pain right now. Sometimes the roller is just a little bit too intense. It's really firm. This I have inflated, not quite all the way, so you can see it's kind of squishy and it gives you a little bit of give. So we're going to work our way up the chain going into the hamstring, and I'm just going to start to rock forward and back with that ball under my hamstring. So again, just depending on what you're experiencing in your body right now, you might want to go for this with the foam roller, or you can even get in there with the peanut and get a little deeper. But I sort of like the gentleness of this, and again, you can kind of work in those circular patterns with this ball. So just loosening things up. Let your body be your guide as always. And then let's go up a little bit higher. So I'm actually just like right over on one cheek, and I'm going to start to go a little deeper into a hamstring stretch, kind of rounding the back, curling over, and then gliding forward. And you can get into this as deeply as is comfortable. You can even start to lift your heart, open up the front side of the body. So these are all just suggestions. Obviously, you can make this your own practice in any way that you see fit. Super nice. So let's go over to the other side. And again, just kind of going into the hamstring. Like I did with the calf, I'll show you what it would look like if you're using a foam roller. So we're going to start sort of above the knee, more leaning back. And you can just glide up and down. You can sort of rock your legs side to side over that guy and just, again, creating a little bit of friction. Just kind of helps loosen things up, breathe new life into your tissues. So I mentioned in the intro that I would talk about why we get our fascia so out of whack sometimes. And clearly, I can't have all the answers here, but here's a few things that you might have going on if you're dealing with thicker, dense, tight, wound up fascia. One thing that's super cool about our fascia is that it actually helps create more stability in areas where our body has a weakness. So if you've had an injury or any sort of strain, you might have an area where your fascia has built up extra thickness and density to help support your body where there's that area of weakness. So it's like a really cool thing that your body can do, but then it turns problematic when we let it stay like that. So that's one reason. Other reasons could just be sort of overuse. So where you've got areas where there's like added stress to your body that's repetitive, sometimes that can cause extra tightness. It is closely related to muscle tightness and things like that, but fascia is its own thing. So anyways, anytime you feel like, oh, it might be tight muscles, it might also be your fascia. So, okay, I'm gonna use the ball for this one. Again, you can totally use the roller, but I just love the gentleness and effectiveness of the squishy ball. So now I'm sitting squarely on it, and I'm gonna start to go up into my low spine. Still stretching out the hamstrings. I'm rocking forward and back. And the ball has a nice way of actually being able to access even sort of the muscles of the pelvic floor. which are really hard to address if you've got tightness in that area. That can actually lead to a lot of dysfunction. And so having the ball there as a way to just sort of start to relax and loosen up is really nice. So again, you can kind of turn this into a chest opener. You can go really deep into forward flexion. Follow your body's cues. It will let you know what you need. Okay, so we're still working our way up the chain, right? We're going up. Let's go into our waistline. We'll get back to the hips. We'll be doing a lot more with our hips, but going to our waistline, I've got this nestled in right below my ribs, and I'm just gonna start to twist, reaching my elbow towards my wrist, and then opening up. So let this be a time to just unwind. Make sure you're breathing, just letting the stress of the day kind of melt away. Open, and then close the chest. Good, okay, we'll do that on the other side in just a second, but let's go down into the hip really quick since we're on this side. So now we're gonna just place this right under our hip. So I'm sort of sitting sideways. From here, you can kind of glide up and down. And again, foam roller works. It's just a little bit more intense on the roller. And this just kind of allows, it's almost like it's hugging your body. So you kind of get a little bit more contact and a little bit more of that friction. Okay, so now, a little balance challenge here. Still got this right under my hip. I'm crossing my bottom ankle over, holding myself up nice and tall. This elbow is gonna come here. We're gonna twist, elbow to knee, open the chest, twist elbow to knee. So we're just looking for ways to start to create a little bit more length throughout the body, looking for ways to incorporate the whole system. And you can actually stay here too and kind of rock side to side. This usually feels like a really nice stretch on the hip. And if your wrist bugs you, you can do this down here on your elbow too. That totally works. So find what works for you. Okay, let's repeat those on the other side. So coming to the waist, starting here, open and close, just twisting. And as we get deeper into this, you know, now you're gonna start to feel like, okay, I feel what we're doing here. Start to just smile to your body a bit. And as much as that sounds cheesy, just allow yourself to kind of feel like, okay, this is what it's like to take care of myself, to love my body, to give it what it's craving, and see if you can find that moment to smile. And it really does change the chemical balance in our body when we're smiling and we're calm. So let's start that little side hip roll. But yeah, when we can be at peace with what we're feeling in our body, sometimes it feels like we're at war with our body or we're at odds with it, and we're dealing with problems that prevent us from doing the things we want to do, and that's just really hard. So if that's you, if that's happening right now, just take a moment to recognize how amazing your body is and how maybe in this moment it is a invitation to care for yourself and give yourself love. So here we are doing our little twist. I'm getting a nice stretch across my shoulder blades and my upper back, so I love that. And then again, just kind of rocking side to side. So, oh yeah. Okay, let's come down and come onto our back with the ball between our shoulder blades. So this is one you've probably done on a foam roller, just the upper back roll. If the ball doesn't feel like quite enough, feel free to grab your foam roller. But if it's feeling good here, you might let your back arch over and then maybe rock a bit side to side. So I like interlocking my fingers, just creating lots of length in the body. And then maybe bridging up a little bit and getting a little twist. A little back massage. The sound effects are kind of funny. You can laugh at those. It's like making funny sounds. Okay, So you can spend more time there. Let's flip over though and get into the front side of the body a bit. So a lot of times we don't realize like how hunched and tight we are here in like our diaphragm and our belly and our psoas. So we're going to address that a little bit too, which the ball is really great for and a foam roller is not great for. So coming on to our front, let's place the ball like right at our diaphragm. And let's take a nice inhale, sort of like a cobra pose, and then exhale, just let your body sort of melt. Inhale and exhale. And you can take this to the degree that feels good for you. If it feels good to come way down and get a ton of pressure massaging into your diaphragm area, go for it. And then you might even kind of take your hands out wide and rock. So just noticing if you can create a little bit more space for your breath. A lot of times when we're really tight and restricted in our diaphragm area, then we're actually not even breathing deeply and we're missing out on so much energy that we could have access to. Okay, so now let's go all the way down into sort of the low belly, just right above your pubic bone. And we're just gonna kind of rock up and down. And depending on what floor surface you're on, sometimes if you're on a really sticky yoga mat, you might have to get off so that you can glide with your knees down like this. So again, just take this to the degree that feels good for you. You can kind of rock side to side, twisting, maybe kind of peeking over your shoulder. Just getting into all those spaces. This feels really good for the low back too. Okay, let's get into our psoas. Our psoas is like right here. It's our hip flexing muscle group. So we have these muscles that go way up into our belly, and when we're sitting a lot or when we're stressed, these get really tight, and it can be super problematic for our upper back, our lower back. So I'm gonna place this under my right hip. My left knee is out here like a little kickstand, and I'm gonna start to glide up and down. And for me, I've been practicing this for a while, and I really like this bigger sweeping motion going way up into my ribs. And again, just let your breath flow. Try to avoid holding your breath because that sends our brain a stress response. So you just want to let your breath flow. Good. And then let's do the other side. So just getting in there, allowing that deep tissue release. If you are dealing with kind of a more acute pain situation, of course you want to get that checked out. I'm not a doctor. This is not a medical treatment, but if you're just kind of dealing with basic aches and pains or maintenance that you want to just take really good care of your body, incorporating this type of movement into your daily, weekly practice can make a huge difference and be so beneficial. So I'm just going to end this particular sequence by sitting up nice and tall. I'm actually bringing my feet wide and just circle my feet around. Again, this is a nice one for getting into the pelvic floor space and also just releasing the backs of the legs. And then finally finishing up with a nice side body stretch. Again, just take a moment to seal this movement practice. Complete this time that you spent with yourself by sending some love and gratitude to your body. I hope you find this helpful, and I'd love to hear from you to know if you'd like more videos like this in the future.